Welcome to the Independent Artist Podcast, sponsored by the National Association of Independent Artists.
Also sponsored by Zapplication. I'm Will Armstrong, and I'm a mixed media artist.
I'm Douglas Sigworth, glassblower. Join our conversations with professional working artists. Well, everyone, it is the day after Halloween and just a couple of days before the 2024 presidential election. Oh, good God, is this ever going to end, Will?
Ooh, terrifying.
Yeah.
That's scarier than anything. Well, if the election has taught us anything, then our nauseating banter is completely okay. Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. I appreciate you bearing with me, Douglas, on recording. I've been back and forth to Minnesota a few times. It's been a little bit of a hectic fall for me. I've been to Memphis, up and down the Mississippi River.
You've been everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So
I just got to say, I appreciate so much. I mean, you just pulled in late last night. You've been on the road and being willing to get up and have a good, coherent conversation with me. I guess we'll see how it goes, right?
Yeah, don't get cocky. Don't get cocky on that one. It took me... I don't know. I got through. I have a book that I was reading or listening to. I mean, for Halloween, I was digging deep into an old Stephen King.
Cool.
I was talking to Erin Curry and her dad across the way from me at the Cottonwood Festival. It was great to catch up with those guys and
cool.
Was talking about Salem's Lot. And so I had actually never read it. It's like a classic vampire story, Stephen King. So. Was listening to that, and even that I was starting to get sleepy, so I had to dig deep into Exile on Main Street to get me all the way home.
Exile on Main Street, is that an album?
Yeah, it's probably my favorite Stones record. It's like 1972. It's just them in their kind of heyday, learning how to. I don't know. They figured out songwriting at that point, and they're cool. Just crushing it. It's my favorite era.
Perfect.
Well, kinda. I like cocaine era. I like the cocaine era of the Stones.
I think you like every era. Were there any bad eras?
I don't love heroin. I don't love the heroin era. Okay. I'm not a big Goat's Head Soup guy. There's some good tracks on there, but I'm not a big Satanic Majesties. That's the clunker.
Okay.
We had a conversation with my in-laws and my brother-in-law in particular brought up, is there an artist that doesn't have a single clunker for you? Is there a musical artist? Like, you think about, like, you dig deep into the whole thing. Like, the Stones have a couple of clunkers for me. Their Satanic Majesties is a dog. Their early Brian Jones stuff is mostly covers, so it's hard to really get into that. For me, you know, I still love it, but it's like, you know, it's not seminal. So it's just
but being spontaneous like this, I can't necessarily think, like some of my artists that I like, musicians, like U2. I was a huge fan of Octung Baby in college.
Sure.
And
so that's our era.
Yeah, for sure. But I do know the one where I don't remember the name of it, but they made it so that they could download it into everybody's Apple account for free.
Yeah. There was like a U2 iPod and it was red and it was automatic. I think it's still in my library. It didn't totally, I was like, it's fine. You can stay there, U2.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a kind of a clunker.
Yeah. It didn't go anywhere. But hey, back to the election thing. I was thinking about this because I'm kind of in civilian mode. I love when you refer to non-artists as civilians.
Yeah,
you know?
Civilians for sure.
And so I'm home and doing all the civilian type stuff. I don't have a show planned until February. But I was thinking about the election, and the last time I did a show the weekend before the election was in 2016, down in Pensacola at the Great Gulf Coast Show.
Oh, yeah, that's going on this weekend.
That's this weekend. And I just remember feeling like, why am I here? Why am I doing a show right now? Because everybody's got election on the mind. They're not in the mindset of, you know, they're wearing their T-shirts with who they support, and they're not thinking about buying any art. And so I'm kind of grateful I'm off the road during this whole period.
Yeah, I hear you. Other than the fact that it's a great show, it's a super cool location, that Great Gulf Coast show. It always gets top-notch artists, and I think the prize money at that show is pretty great, too.
It's
one of those huge Florida prize money shows.
Mm-hmm. Not that I've ever seen any of it, but yeah, I know it's there.
Yeah. I got an award there.
Did you?
Yeah, and Kemper got mad at me because I was like, if I won an award, I'm going to low five the whole room and do a lap. And he's like, you got to do it. And I did not. I chickened out. And yeah, I didn't want to. I felt like it was disrespectful to the show. You know,
right.
At that point.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to make them feel like I'm mocking. I mean, it's a nice honor whenever you get an award, right?
Yeah.
So I've been to, Memphis was perfect as far as weather goes. And
we haven't talked since then, and I've heard some stuff. So I'm interested on your take on how everything went there for you.
Yeah, the sales for me felt sleepy, a little sluggish. I talked to a lot of people that I feel like I may sell to later, and but sales felt sluggish, and it's one of those things I don't feel like blaming. There's nothing to blame the show for. The advertising was out. You know, the people tended to come out that same weekend. There was an article in the New York Times about how people were not, they're hanging onto their money and they're not making big luxury purchases, and that's what we are.
We are totally.
Right? I mean,
I got a text message that weekend from a collector who's bought from us at that show in the past, and they added to their wall collection. They fleshed out their wall installation that we started for them. And I thought, look at us making a sale at a show and not having to be there. So I was grateful we didn't have to actually set up shop and be at a show, and we could still make a sale off of it.
Yeah, it was funny. I had my goals for that show. I was like, okay, my inventory is a little weird right now, but I could definitely sell this one, and I could sell that one. I sold one of the two, and then on the way out of there, I closed a sale from a different show of that other piece that somebody wanted that was still available. So still hit my goal. Just half of it wasn't for Memphis, but god damn, is that show fun.
Is it? Did you go out and have some fun afterwards, or just?
Yeah, a little bit. Susie and I were it had been, a minute with doing all this traveling back and forth, and she did it as well. And we were kind of the early to bed kind of kids as far as that goes, but there's definitely a group of folks that goes out and just hits it pretty hard and enjoys the city. Have I ever talked about Ernestine and Hazel's?
No.
At all. It's just this incredible stop. It's an old, just kind of bluesy bar, and they do have music, but they've got a burger counter behind the back. It used to be, there's all of this history to it. It used to be a stop on the Chitlin Circuit, as far as like musicians would stop when they were not renting rooms to black artists. They would come down there, and sometimes they'd get a girl and go upstairs, and there was just a huge party atmosphere. So the list of celebrities that have stayed there, that have caused fights there, that have done things. I mean, it goes on, but it's like Howlin' Wolf and Ray Charles and Little Richard and James Brown. I mean, all these, some of my absolute favorites of all time, and just the history. And they haven't really done much to preserve it other than just, it's like just this patina of life upstairs and haunted as hell.
Really?
It's just
cool.
Yeah, and the words too, going back to my Stones, but apparently, the rumors Mick Jagger wrote the lyrics to Honky Tonk Women sitting at the bar downstairs. I met a Jen Soak barroom queen in Memphis. She tried to take me upstairs for a ride.
Nice.
So it's like the whole place is just incredible.
Wow.
So that was kind of a lot of the artists have found that, so it was cool to hang out with a lot of folks.
Cool.
And really get the party kind of going. It was fun.
Yeah. Well, I had heard about some like vehicle break-ins. Did you experience any of that, or are you guys spared from any of that?
No, I'm not scared. It's downtown Memphis. It comes with a little grit.
Yeah.
And
I didn't say scared. I said spared. Were you guys spared? You didn't have any issues?
I was spared. Yeah, I wasn't afeared, but I was. I was spared. And I might have felt differently had I been broken into, but I don't know. I left my vehicle there during the show hours and didn't have any trouble. And they do have security all night, and the security is in a golf cart that kind of goes around the whole parking lot. But these guys, whoever broke in, they were quick, smash and grab. You can't leave anything in your vehicle, and unfortunately, the way vans look, you got to have your packing material and stuff. It looks like you've got luggage in there, even if it's empty. So
yeah.
I think there was one artist maybe that was broken into, and then a couple of civvies. So
yeah, one of the challenges of doing shows, Minneapolis, Memphis, wherever, Portland for that matter, that was a big concern for me out in Portland was I'm not leaving my vehicle over here in artist parking because I've heard stories, so you try and find that street lamp in front of the hotel that is a little more visible, that if they're going to try some business, that it's a little more, out in the open.
Yeah. I had I had an Airbnb this time out, and they had off-street parking, and just slid the van into that. So it was fenced. It might as well had a moat. So it felt pretty strong.
Yeah.
The alligators protected me. Yeah, it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we were right down in the downtown part. But it's a gritty southern city.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's just there's some poor folks that live in Memphis.
Yeah. Well, back here in civilian land, getting kind of, it's the first time I think in a long time that I've had kind of this time off the road where I'm like functional, where I can do stuff I want to do that's more related to being a regular old human owning a house than being out on the road.
Okay.
Last couple of years, I've talked ad nauseum about health issues and stuff. So this felt kind of good. So I'm like up and down ladders. I discovered power washing, which I've heard my brother-in-laws and father-in-law holiday occasions talking about their power washer. And I'm like, give me a break. But damn, that was fun. I mean, I'm cleaning everything with that power washer.
God, you got a leaf blower out too. Hey, can you clean a tent top with that there, Sigward?
I think so. Yeah, probably.
I was thinking about that. Having a tall van now, I won't run through my truck would not run through the car wash either, but I think the dirt was holding it together. So with a newer van now, I want to make sure that I'm keeping it clean and stuff. And I'm you got to go through the self wash, and it made me think about actually washing my tent top for the first time and taking that
first time.
I've never washed my tent
ever.
top.
And how old is it now?
I have 2 craft huts. I think one of the tops is 10 years old, and that's the new one.
Okay.
And then the other one is probably 18 years old. And then they start to get that crud. You know what I'm talking about? That
looks
orange.
like a crusted marshmallow or something that's gone through.
And it smells. I was down next to somebody at, I think it was the Grove, actually. And, they hadn't done a show since October, and they're unfolding this thing, and it's orange. And you could smell their goddamn tent from like 2 blocks away. It was just like, oh, dude, pray for rain for that thing.
Right.
But the only thing, like, you get it in the sun and it kind of fades, but there's no cleaning that off once you have the orange crud.
I've heard it's like a mildew, or it's like what is it? Something from the trees, and it comes from the south that just like eats away, and it gets nasty, and it's hard to clean.
No one knows. Everybody has a theory on what it is, but no one knows. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the people who will throw them will go to like the commercial laundromats and throw their tent tops in there? And I've never done that. I've never been brave enough. I'm always afraid I'm going to melt the thing, so I don't even want to mess with it.
Well, no, you can't put it in the dryer. And the problem with that is you take it out and it's not absorbent.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tent top, and then you take it out, and any of the pooling water, you're going to dump 5 to 20 gallons of water on the ground.
Nice.
Like, it's just going to be, I'm exaggerating. I don't know. Never done it, but whatever. It just pulls in, and you pull it out, and it just spills water all over their floor. And you have to be you kind of have to not care. Right. The other one I've heard about is swimming pools. Which I have heard that too.
But doesn't the chlorine just eat away at the plastic or the lining of our tents?
Not that I've heard.
Okay.
I think it works fine, but I mean, you either have to have a pool yourself, or you have to have somebody, a friend that's willing to let you drag your nasty tent top into their house and throw it in the thing. I'm like, this is nobody wants that.
That's when you stop at a Comfort Inn and you throw it in one of those pools at the hotel.
Yeah. Just, sorry, Billy. No pool. It's Adult Swim right now.
Nasty. Anyway, so another thing about being home, being a civilian, is I'm doing these end of year kind of like physical tune-ups. Like we've met our deductible. And have you ever felt like your job is killing you, Will?
Yeah, I mean, it's not for the week. Yeah, go continue.
Yeah,
tell me more.
I'm finding out that these routine checkups that you're supposed to do when you're 50 years old, I'm finding out that being a glass blower is hard on the body for some reason.
Oh really? All right.
Really?
Yeah, you're gonna have to start doing the Sigworth retirement plan. It's gonna be Christmas ornaments because that's all you can lift.
It's crazy. Well, I think I have maybe 1 or 2 of my rotator cuff tendons intact, but the rest of them seem to be disappearing at a rapid pace.
Oh man, that's no good. Get a little PT because those rotator cuffs are Man, Jana Epstein, is that her name? Can't say her name.
Jana. Mm-hmm.
Jana had trouble with her rotator cuffs and never slows down, doesn't slow her down, but then it's just, you got to be careful.
I think the orthopedic surgeon had like dollar signs in his eyes because he's got a big plan for all the different surgeries I can do for these rotator cuffs. And I thought, oh my God, am I done being a glassblower? Because these recoveries takes like 6 months. It's like, how can any of us take 6 months to take a break and do that kind of thing? But then I went to see my physical therapist for other stuff that I'm working on for the feet. And she's like, oh no, people live with torn rotator cuffs. There's other stuff you can do, physical therapy related. So I'm kind of in that whole big spiral right now of trying to figure out, what do I need to do with myself in order to keep doing this thing? So
man,
anyway.
that is brutal. I'm sorry to hear that, but that's that is
life.
Part of it. Yeah, it is life. Hey, I'm drinking out of my new Ed Brownlee mug.
That is amazing.
Isn't it? There's my I
it
think
looks
my
like
wife
you
thought,
right now, actually. Is it a self-portrait?
Yeah, that's my wife got it for me. She was like, I got you a little surprise. And we just love Ed Brownlee. I think that Ed could do shows just knowing his friends are there. Like, I think it just pumps him up to a level because we all collect him. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think she thought that looked like me, definitely. So
yeah, not only did she think it, she's kind of right on with that.
It's
well,
I love it. So yeah, I had forgotten what it looks like, but it made me belly laugh when I opened it up to drink out of this morning.
That's awesome. There's also reminiscent of the old profile pic you posted of yourself yesterday for Halloween.
Yeah, I've got Nicholson hair, and if I'm going to go bald, I'm going to go bald like Nicholson. That's all right. I'm just
let it go every which way up in the air.
Sure. I mean, it's sliding off the back of my head. Let's see. A green flannel jeans and a red corduroy shirt. It's like that. Okay, you look like Jack Torrance. Not that I go to Halloween parties. A buddy of mine lives in Salem, Massachusetts, and it's like Halloween capital of the world, of course. It's like witchcraft.
Right. Yeah.
So he's always going to these Halloween parties. He's like, show us your costumes. What are you guys dressing as? I'm like, I'm 54. What are you talking about? I'm not.
Somebody is always on the ready, no matter what their age, to pull out that costume and be like, look at me.
I mean, it's fun, right? It's a good time.
Yeah.
But not since really my kids were little and they wanted to dress up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dress up with them or whatever. Dress up to take them trick-or-treating. They always wanted everybody to go.
It's funny. I didn't know this till my kids were adults, but there was a year that Renee and I dressed up as vampires with them as they were little to take them around trick-or-treating. Little did we know that actually scared the living hell out of them. That they didn't tell us that in the moment. I mean, they didn't like run screaming or whatever, but they tell us later when we're having like these family dinners as adults and be like, do you remember the time you guys dressed up as a vampire? Yeah, I think I got seriously traumatized from that. And it was like news to us. It was so crazy.
Poor kids.
Yeah. But I had all that old theater makeup from when I was in college and doing plays and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So Renee and I went all out and, we did the full regalia. And I guess it was a little too realistic.
Yeah,
so didn't realize. Yeah.
Back to art show world. Are you going back to Florida?
Yes, I was actually going to ask you that very thing. We've got, we're kind of in that mode right now. All of us art fair artists are applying for shows and we're starting to hear back from those early ones, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some Florida stuff that we've gotten into and starting to craft our first quarter of the year of shows.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah, how about you? What are you doing?
I've got the Grove on my books. I've got another.
Cool, me too.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to Coconut Grove, so happy to be back there. My wife is in as well, so it'll be a nice trip to Miami.
Yay.
I don't know that I'm going to try to pair it up with anything. I did apply for Winter Park, so we'll see if that's coming up in a couple weeks. So
gotcha.
We'll see.
We're
maybe I'll do that.
On that.
But I don't know if I'd stay. I wouldn't stay.
No, that'd be a long break.
Would fly
that'd be like
home.
A month.
Is that a month apart? March, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've got another something showing opportunity, just a local thing in January, so that may go well. Temple Bethel is in January. That's always, if you are invited to do that one, that's always that can be very lucrative for January too. But that's just you can ship it down and then pick it up when you do the Grove, or something else.
Right.
Or
that's right. So the Grove is after that. I was thinking it was before, but yeah.
And then there's a ton of Howard Allen stuff around that time as well. There are all sorts of shows that people can plug in. I haven't seen those folks. I saw. I think do the Allens live in Colorado now? Do you know?
I don't know.
I saw
They're kinda
Debbie
off my
in
radar.
Denver. That was really cool to see her in Denver, but I got a chance to talk to them a little bit. But
Okay.
just interesting people. They obviously, if you're not, I don't know if you're super new, it's whatever. They have they're more promoter shows, and they have a whole string of Florida and Colorado. But,
Florida, Colorado, and then kind of around like the capital too, right? Don't they have a bunch of stuff out in DC and Maryland? Virginia area?
Yeah. They've got the Alexandria show, but I'd have to look at the schedule. I know that Robin Markowitz does some around the DC area. She's
cool.
great. Miss seeing her. She's a terrific promoter. She did the Bethesda shows for a while. And
Right.
little shout out to our good directors out there. But
Well, we're kind of crafting a season in Florida, which I wasn't sure if we would do that, because the last time we did a season down there, it was like, I don't know, like 8 to 10 shows. But now we're going to hopefully do around 3 to 4, depending on how the jury gods go. So we have a show in Naples after the Grove, and then we're in Gasparillo. And I was pretty excited to get into that show. And then I was talking to an artist at our last show earlier this month, and it was right after the hurricane came through. And they said, well, they're going to turn it down because they're not too sure if Tampa will be recovered from the hurricane that came through.
Oh, Tampa will be fine.
I thought so. I mean, we often know that Florida season in the winter, comes on the heels of hurricane season in October.
Right.
And I've kind of heard two schools of thought. People are like, oh my God, this community is going to be ravaged by the hurricane. There's no way they're going to be ready to buy art at a show in winter.
Right.
But then I hear the flip side, which is, they have their insurance money and they feel kind of flush. So then they will buy, expendable stuff too. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's an answer. I think those are, I think there are excuses and there are reasons, but man, I think they're just, I'd go. Probably if that's a market for you that you like, just go back. Who cares? It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of damage, but it's not, the infrastructure of Florida and Tampa is different than getting a surprise attack like Port Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh my God.
I mean, that was just devastating. But that was a river flooding too. And that's the river coming up and taking things away and the wind knocking down trees, of course. But just, I mean, that's devastating. I think Tampa is, I don't know. I ain't a weatherman, Douglas.
Yeah, right. I haven't checked in with some of our friends. Have you heard anything about Asheville? How things are going up that way?
Yeah, it's terrible.
God, it's awful.
Yeah, just terrible.
Still.
It wiped out the arts district and the arts buildings, so many of the different restaurants. They're really struggling. But there are places, I follow. My cousin is super active down there. Half of my family's from North Carolina, and my cousin is being super active with recovery and kind of promoting different things. But she posted something about like how many of the communities are still open for business and thrive on the tourist dollar, and people just aren't going because they just assume it's all gone or it's going to be too hard. And it's like, people, if you're inclined for tourism in the mountains of North Carolina around this time of year, please go. Still, it's a
good way to support the community.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's not all gone. It's just, it's hurting. It's hurting really hard. It's hard to segue. What are we going to say now?
Segue out of destruction.
The devastation and the destruction.
Don't put your awning up until the show is open and people are still driving. Don't put your awning.
I can't segue into that. What's up?
We can segue into the destruction of missing an art fair application. That's pretty destructive, right?
Oh, God.
That's what I've been going through. It's like I'm so into civilian mode with doing my stuff around the house that I forget that I need to like check in and figure out when those apps are coming. And I've missed a few that I really like to apply to because my head has been so out of the art show scene for the last,
this is a
3
weird
weeks.
one too. You've got a lot of shows are coming up on the same weekends this year. Yeah. Like Main Street Fort Worth is coming up on the same weekend as Dogwood and Woodlands. Waterway down in the Houston area, north of Houston. You've got Lakefront and Old Town are the same weekend this year.
That never happens. I'm so shocked that that's overlapping.
That is an odd one. I'm surprised to see that as well. But I mean, I do see, I've talked to directors before and they're like, I'm not moving. We're like, okay,
this
that's
is my
cool.
weekend.
Yeah. Does that make things easier? Do you think it'll make things easier to get into because so many people will be turning it down? It's got to.
Yeah, I guess. Right.
If your favorite is Lakefront and you get into Old Town too, you turn it down. It opens up a spot.
So then which one is your favorite? Which is the top favorite? Who wins? Who wins that battle?
That's right. So. And then you're going to get to see the cheetahs are going to come out. They're trying to send their wife to do it. They're going to split the Sigworth dollar, and Douglas is going to go to Lakefront. He's never done that, folks. That's a joke.
You know what, though? I'm not going to lie to you. When we first got into this business, when we didn't know any better, our first couple of years out on the road where we just felt like we had to hustle, Renee took one kid to one show and I took one kid to the other show.
You dirty dog.
It took one time of major hassle and problems that we just were like, no, we're never doing this again. 2 displays, 2 bodies of work, each having a kid while trying to run a show. It was a nightmare.
Also, it's illegal.
True story. But that was before I knew it was that.
Sure. A lot of people break rules,
Don't do that.
This episode of the Independent Artist Podcast is brought to you by Zap, the digital application service where artists and art festivals connect.
Will, I sat down last week and started looking over what shows are listed in Zap that I want to apply to for the next season.
Oh, thanks for the panic attack. I appreciate that. I haven't even begun. No, I really appreciate what they're doing for us as an industry.
It's not just about us artists. I mean, it's also about the shows. They get to jury their show using our application images, and then the shows can manage all of our information using Zap's online platform.
I don't know about you, but I find myself late night doom scrolling after that first rejection of the season, so it's always helpful to me to have everything in one place.
Yeah, so I've missed some of those deadlines, and I catch myself, like, I'll be going to bed, and I'm like, oh, it's not midnight yet. Well, it's like 7 o'clock, let's be honest. And I'm like, oh, before I fall asleep, I have to log on and make sure I don't miss anything today. So there I am on my phone. I'm remembering saying this before, so I must have said this exact story last year, but it's true. This time of the year, I'll quick look on my phone to make sure I'm not missing anything, and then I can either quick apply or go to sleep. It's just nuts.
Yeah. Here's one for you. I'm friendly with the director of a show, and I had missed the deadline, and I sent a message just like, hey, still love your show. I just missed it, so we'll catch you next year instead. I'll see you on the road. And she emailed back. She was like, our app doesn't open until like next week. Like, what are you talking about? But I had looked online, and I found this thing about the applications close on October 5th. And I'm like, well, It's after that. There's no way, and I wasn't pleading, well, can I please put my app in? I wasn't doing that. I was just like, hey, sorry. Don't, be surprised when you don't see me. I definitely wanted to. She was like, I don't know where you read that. Maybe that was for music vendors or something like that. But
or maybe it was applications are open, perhaps? Or
maybe. Well, there's a lot going on. I think it's finally open, though. But, man, there's a lot of new stuff. I feel like people are trying new things this year. Have you noticed that? It's just kind of like...
You're like trying a different show, different areas. Like there's some shows that over the midsummer I saw people were at who, I feel like if I'm at a show and I see those folks there, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm in the right spot.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I'm like, why are they all over at that show that I'm not at? How did I not hear about that one? What do they know that I don't know, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I have wondered about that for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself into some new markets, just to try to kind of see. The standard kind of old standby shows are not working all the time. It's not like a guarantee as it used to be. Like some of the shows that I used to love and hope to get into, I don't even apply to anymore. And
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and do you think it's just this year, like the election year thing, or it's like how often do you go back and keep trying it?
I'm not a one dip at the well guy, but if I see a trend, it's like panning for gold, and you're trying to find that vein of gold, and you find a little, and you're getting closer and closer. It's like it works the opposite way, It's like, oh, here's my best show was 5 years ago, and then if you did half of that and then half of that, it's like, well, you're aiming, you're down. And then there was a show I did last year. I'd given a couple years off, and I was excited to be back. And then I go back, and I'm like, no, it's still bad. It's not
Okay.
Yeah, it was still trending down. I'm not going back.
I've heard people refer to shows like that as like not getting ahead, but it like slows the bleeding. Like it's just enough to, you know what I mean, to slowly keep you from bleeding out, but it's certainly not successful by any means.
Yeah, and I think that the whole, the election, I think it really only, to me, it only really affects those shows that are like maybe right before it, maybe that month before, maybe 2 months, September, October, as opposed to, I don't think people are thinking about it all year long. And the people that we're selling to, I don't know, they got the money. They don't give a shit.
I mean, yeah, I've been at shows where I'm like, well, maybe it's the election and that's why we're not selling at it.
Right.
But then I look across the way and I see other artists who are doing phenomenal. I'm like, okay, it's their market. This isn't my market. I need to kind of get real about where, you want to be. So that's always a struggle to analyze what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. My wife took me to task, actually. She was like, you say that thing about the pie chart, and how like, here's what I'm capable of making. Here's what I'm capable of making that, within that, there's that what I love. Then there's what I love that sells. She was like, just fuck that. Just make what you want. Have you noticed like the weird stuff that you don't have any of it left?
Yeah.
You sell it almost immediately. You go dark or you go weird or something. It's like, it still sells. Just make the stuff that you want and people feel the heart in it. So that's where I'm going.
That's true.
This particular off season, if you will, because I don't have a show until December.
I remember last year you'd put out, or 2 years ago, put out a piece that you said for you was going really weird. And I remember it was like a hit. It was good. Yeah. So I think your wife is onto something there.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. We get so inside of our heads and making the thing that you think you have to make. Just make the thing you want to make. So
they feel the passion behind it, the soul, the heart, the enthusiasm. They see that look in your eye when you go to talk about it. Yeah,
I feel like I don't know. Sometimes you're not selling and you start talking to people and you talk to too many people and then you just, I don't know, feel like a creepy old pervert. Trying to
hey, would you like to talk about my work?
Yeah, just some creep. You're like, the clients become the 5-year-old and you're the old lech at the playground. Hey, who likes lollipops? It's just, just go away. Just get out of here.
I had an experience at a show earlier this year where there weren't that many people for this one period of time that were coming in to engage in the work. And so I'm always a fan of if somebody wants to engage in a different conversation so that it at least has energy in the booth, then I will entertain it. I will respond as opposed to trying to funnel that away so I can talk to the people who are interested in the work kind of thing.
Like totally not art related? Just
right. Totally.
Okay.
So this one festival goer is walking by and you could tell that they were in a place in their life where they just weren't happy in their career. And they were feeling such inspiration by the fact that all of us artists are out on the road kind of doing what we find passion and joy about. So she's asking me all these sorts of questions about how did we know we wanted to do this? How did you know what path to follow? And so there's this long conversation about how passionate we are about what we do for a living and about what we make. And I'm thinking, well, we're not selling our work right now, but I'm thinking as a side job, this sounds like I could step into being a life coach or something because this woman was just like all in. And then as she walks away, I'm thinking, yeah, well, right now we're not selling anything. So maybe that was all bad advice about following your bliss.
Don't talk to me. Yeah, follow your bliss and run up your credit card.
So we've also been talking over the year about how important the mailing list is, and how it's good to nurture the mailing list and building on our collectors and that sort of thing. I kind of feel like how I used to do it is kind of changing in this more modern era. Putting out a book with collecting emails, which is great. I'm not denigrating it. However you can collect your contacts is good. But I feel like, and I'm curious what you do with this, I feel like exchanging numbers and texting back and forth in the booth with pictures of things you have in the booth or things you have in your photo reel to show them that you could do for them, that's a good way to savor or to nurture that communication with them, instead of just having their email for later, but this is almost like a way to create dialogue throughout the rest of time moving on with them. Do you do that? Do you text back and forth with collectors that are potential collectors?
Rarely. I mean, I do when they want to see something, or I have a couple of different people that I'll remember, but I don't have any particularly organized way of doing it. I think it would help.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a couple of bad shows, and I talked about that whole leads, and it was like this whole Glenn Ross thing where I was like working these leads and going back and be like, wasn't there a guy that liked that drive-in piece that I did that was so-and-so? And I'm like, I'm going back and forth and talking to people, but not a good way. I don't have a good way of doing it, but I definitely have those people and those clients. And I had started a whole list of those leads after a midsummer show, and then I went through and I've closed all but one of them, so I mean,
okay.
that's pretty great odds. So it definitely works. I just don't have a good way of doing it.
I'm still trying to figure out a smooth way. I mean, I do feel like they are a lot of times ready to pony up their information, where in the past I thought it seemed a little bit too forward to be like, hey, can we exchange numbers? Can we stay in touch? And blah, blah, blah. And it seemed like another artist used that phrase. And for me, it felt comfortable to try it on, and it seemed to be received well. So it didn't seem as forward or, like getting, I don't know, being like a hard salesperson or something like that.
No, and I think
it almost seemed like, anyway.
They appreciate it. I mean, that's the old Ben Fry line. The
Ben Fry line.
Benjamin Fry line. He's like, well, the people buying from us are unprofessional art purchasers, and we are professional art sellers. So, they appreciate being told. And if you remember something, hey, I just finished this, I was thinking about you. I had this one guy, he pitched kind of an idea, and I'm like, I really wanted to do it. So I did a different painting based off of that idea, just like, here's a study that I was thinking about you, and now I have that in my booth, and it's a successful piece. But it's a good way to do it.
It's always tricky to how do we capture that moment that they are into what we do, and then if they don't pull the trigger right then, how can we extend that conversation?
Yeah, like mine is like a new thing. Like it's something new. And then when you're tapped out of new stuff, you're like, all right, it's in your court. I can't. So it was like a whole, hey, I loved this painting. I'm thinking about buying it for my husband as a surprise because he fell in love with it at the show. Okay, that's fantastic. And then you try to say something new that brings them back. That's almost like a question that you can, and then if they answer it, then it kind of keeps the thing going. But those emails back and forth are tough. And sometimes you get those people who are like, God damn, we're not friends. I don't want to go back. Like, how am I going to find, I don't want all this correspondence like constantly, but it's like, you got to do it.
Or even now with texting. Texting feels a little bit more intimate, like having somebody's personal text. But now it's like if you give any money, I don't know, we gave some money to our political candidate and we get texts at least every half hour daily. Like I might have to like delete and report as junk like 10 or 12 a day. Do you get the same amount, or is it just because we donated?
I didn't donate this time around, but I did the previous election, and I'm still getting them because of that. So I just get, it's all this stuff. I'm sure I probably have one today, just.
Like what I don't understand is, do they funnel your number into like this media thing, and then they keep changing the number that it gets sent from so that you can't efficiently block them forever?
Correct. Yep.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you're in. You're gonna be getting, and then it's like, hey Will, it's all personal too. You know, it's like, it's not like, hey Will, it's Barack. I was thinking about all this stuff. Oh well, hello Barack. Nice to hear from you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to have the former president in my.
Did you want to get a beer?
Me a personal message.
Added you. How come you've texted me from 4 different numbers?
Which, by the way, isn't it been a complete pleasure to see and hear from President Barack Obama again? That man is phenomenal, in my opinion. He is inspirational as fuck.
Yeah. Did you ever see speaking of improv, and did you ever watch 30 Rock?
Yes. Oh, wait, no, 30 Rock. Oh, yes. I get that one confused, the name of it, with the one with John Lithgow and Jane Curtin back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit.
Right. But this was like Tina Fey and Jenna. I can't remember Jenna's the name, but it's Jenna and Tina Fey trying to do, like, they're like doing one of those memories, and they're like, that's worse than when Jenna and Tina did improv. It was like
on 30 Rock.
Yeah, and they cut back to the memory, and it's like Oprah and Sling Blade, and Tina Fey is like, I sure do like them French fried potatoes, and Jenna's like, no, you don't, Oprah, and it's like this 4-tier joke of like, I can't say anything that's good. The only thing I've said good, the only worthwhile thing I've said is, do you like lollipops? That's my only addition to this. Do you like lollipops? But I really do feel like an old, like sometimes you're broke and you're trying to sell the painting.
Yeah.
And you feel like an old pervert, kind of just trying like, hey, who likes do you like, can I come inside your house and show this to you in your living room? It's just like, I don't know. Just when you're off your game, you're off your game. That's how I feel right now.
And to see the look on their face, and you're like, I can't stop being weird and creepy based on their look, and then you just keep getting yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into it,
Yeah. And I get insomnia at shows sometimes if I'm not doing well, and then that just builds on itself, because the next day then you're just so tired. Mm-hmm. Then I'll go, and like the last time I think it was Cottonwood, where I was talking to somebody and they were legit, and I just was having this out-of-body experience where I was watching myself talk.
Oh, weird.
And I'm like, I'm not even in control of my own spiel. It's so rote right now. I need to shake it up, make some new stuff, or figure like, and you can just talk yourself out of a sale by just being a doofus.
Yeah. Well, speaking of TV shows, you brought up 30 Rock. This is a story that I've kind of had on the back burner for a while. I'm a huge Vince Gilligan series fan, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and kind of like in Ozark and in Breaking Bad, the premise behind it is they need a business that is good for money laundering. And what a better business for money laundering than the art fair business or art show artist.
Yeah. Where's my drug dealers at?
Can we
I'm
get
open
a
for business. Yeah, heck yeah. I'll do it.
Well,
I'll launder that shit. I'm an abstract painter now, cranking that stuff out.
Yeah, so when Renee and I started out in this business, we were traveling around to local glass studios, and we would visit the different ones around town just to kind of get an idea of how we would want to build our own studio when we had the means and the ability and all that kind of stuff. So there's this glass blowing studio in St. Paul, and we were so impressed. I mean, the equipment was top notch, super expensive, bells and whistles on everything. And we're asking the guy more about his business model. Doesn't go to art fairs, doesn't sell to galleries. He's got his own gallery out front of his studio. He had like 2 or 3 benches with people working all the time in the studio. And I'm like, oh my God, that's living the dream right there. Top-notch equipment, sell out the front, doing awesome. And then like a year later, we realized it was actually a front for a whole drug operation. That's how he just used all that drug money to build a beautiful studio, never had to work that hard on the road, nothing. It's just until he got caught.
That's exciting. Would you rather see you want to see an art show movie? Something based on our lives? Would you rather see a money laundering, Breaking Bad, Ozark kind of show, or would you rather see a Best in Show, Christopher Guest kind of film where they follow all of these weirdos and have these characters? And because I've always thought that would work.
I think I'd be down for both. I think they both have a place out there.
Yeah. God, there was a guy, I think he made it himself. It was like Love in the Art at the art fair or something, and he was peddling this movie. And he was kind of doing, there was like a whole do-it-yourself kind of thing. He'd done it, and he was self-promoting. And I never watched it.
Okay.
But I looked at it. I'm not a big, I don't know. It looked fucking terrible. So I didn't watch it, but it could have been great. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just for me, we all have our own personalities and things we like. It didn't look like what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
That's all.
We're more of a podcast kind of crew here.
I guess. I don't even listen to podcasts anymore. Isn't that funny?
This show has ruined podcasts for you, hasn't it?
It kind of has. It kind of has. I only care about the murder, Douglas.
Oh, yeah.
There aren't any murders here in the art show world.
Not
just
yet, anyway. Not yet.
But wait until the guy that made the movie hears it. might be a murder coming up. You son of a bitch.
Like I've listened to Smartless, and I love all three of those actors. And then I'm like, I'm sick of them saying like nothing. You know what I'm saying? But what I get from other art fair artists who tune into our podcast is we really are talking about kind of the mindset of what a lot of our contemporaries are thinking about life outside of doing shows, creating work. Anyway, this is now turned into an ad for our independent artist podcast. But
yeah, they're already listening. Now, you know what? Half of advertising is to make you feel good about the thing you've already bought.
Yeah,
you're very wise for listening to the Independent Artist
wisely.
Podcast, folks.
Yes.
Now, I had another listener who came to me and took me to task for us just talking about a bunch of fluff. We're like, I don't want to hear you talk about awning poles anymore. I want to hear you get down into it and get nasty about these subjects that really do affect us, and this whole.
Yeah, but when we do that, we get nonstop grief. So it's hard to be edgy, but yet not be like, I'm sorry if I offended you, or you know what I mean? It just can be like this nonstop line that we ride between.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Here's one thing somebody posted on the NAIA Facebook group asking about blackballs and blackballing and people not getting in and being on a blacklisted on shows. I don't think that actually exists as much as people say it does.
I guess one side of me thinks it's a convenient excuse for why we're not jurying well. At least I can say I don't need to look internally and say I need to up my game for my work.
Honestly, you know what the worst thing, and I've said I don't want to talk about politics, but here I go.
Yeah.
The worst thing that Trump has done, as far as whether you like him or you don't like him, the worst thing that I think that he has done personally is made it okay for people that don't succeed at certain things to use cheating as an excuse. It's made this whole generation or half a country full of just whiny little bitches about this subject or that. Oh, it's cheating. I didn't get in because it's cheating and it's all rigged against me. And it's fed this underlying sense of people. Oh, it's all just, you know what? It's your own fault you didn't get in. You didn't win an Emmy because your show sucked. You didn't get this because you're just an old crank. It's just a bunch of whiners. And the fact that, I don't know, it makes me almost feel like bullying and the anti-bullying motion.
Oh, right.
It has done this country an incredible disservice because half of the people just whining about shit, I just feel like hitting them with a rolled up newspaper. Just like, no, knock it off.
Toughen up, for Christ's sake.
You may not do this anymore. You may know the earth is not goddamn flat and your opinion doesn't matter. There's nobody's controlling the weather. You don't get to have both sides of the coin where these people are too stupid to run the country. And also they're controlling the weather and sending hurricanes at us. It's just so much horseshit.
Right.
And I
but
just
then you take it to the art show world or to the regular mundane civilian world. It becomes the scapegoat as to if people don't agree with me or don't like me or I don't get accepted.
My opinion matters. Not if you say something really stupid, your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So call them out. I'm tired of ignorance. Ignorance does not have a place anymore. You don't get to have just really stupid crap just spouted and considered. Oh, let me consider your valuable opinion. Let me think. No, you're an idiot. Sometimes there's just morons. So, yeah, there you go.
Okay. We let it all out. That's our pre-election vomitorium of what we think.
Sure. Definitely. So what do you think about AI, Douglas? What do you think about production studios?
Seriously?
No. Yeah, we can get into it, but I don't know that not in
I
one
have nothing
sentence.
intelligent to say about it, honestly. I guess I will say one of the shows I did recently, I'm like, oh, now I see why people are up in arms about AI, because I saw a lot of that AI hanging on pro-paneled walls.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of it being carried out of the show.
Well, here's the thing. As soon as people see it, what they're doing is dumbing down the art market. And yeah, that's going to work for a while, and it looks kind of cool until the public becomes conscious of the fact that it's AI. And the next thing out is going to be how can I print my own garbage and just so that's going to be a whole business too, is the next thing. So the other side of that is people think I'm being too negative and that it really doesn't affect like quality artwork. But the thing that I fear is that you let that garbage into your show, and then the real quality art buyers are going to start seeing that and being like, I don't really feel like coming here anymore.
This is a conversation I know we had early on when we started the podcast, kind of while we were still shut down, talking about the future of art shows and talking about if the dumbing down of the work creates a spiral of like, then the collectors don't come. And then the artists don't want to apply. And then it's like not being able to pull the show back from the brink. And it does kind of feel like things are cyclical. I feel like we came out of COVID and there was like this gung-ho. People had been working in their studios. There was a demand for original art. And we got to ride the wave for a while. But now it's like a dip. And it's like, where are things going to go at this point is kind of what I'm wondering.
I think that's interesting. You mentioned shows. And I wanted to give this show a shout out. It's like we've talked about, bringing different shows back up and how hard that is to do. But my parents have been going, honestly, since I was tiny. They have been taking me to, they took me to Crozet. And it was always a big fall weekend and the Crozet Arts Festival in Virginia. And we'd go up and go we'd go up to the mountains and go apple picking and go to the art festival and take home a little something. But my folks were saying that, they've been going year after year and they found that the quality has slipped and they're just, some of their favorite people are no longer there. And they went this year and were blown away by both the quality and the crowds, which I thought was awesome. I don't know what they have done to turn that back around, but they said that it was like down, down, down. Then all of a sudden they had to park like a mile away and walk to the show. So interesting.
Had they taken a break from the show, and this was, or
no, they go every year.
Do they come yearly?
Yeah, they go yearly. So they've got a pretty good. And I've mentioned before, my folks are huge collectors of American craft, and they know a bunch of you guys out there that they go to Long's Park every year. They go to Crozet every year. They've been up to ACC Baltimore to see us when I've been showing with my wife, but not showing with my wife, but I've been helping my wife show. And so it's interesting, the shows that they do and that they love going to, and they own a lot of you guys, and you don't even know it.
Except when your mom says, "Do you know Will Armstrong?"
Oh yeah, she does that. So that really cracked Sue Abbott and Jill up. She went in there like, my dad, he's funny.
Hey, back to the show thing and the texting thing being kind of personal. I forgot about this. I've noticed lately that like I applied to some Florida shows that kind of a wide net, so to speak,
sure,
because I really didn't know what we would end up doing. I didn't know what we would get into. And so one of the shows I applied to was the Bonita Springs Festival. And they're they set up 3 shows and they're an arts organization and that. But I noticed that since they now have our information from applying, I started getting text messages from them promoting their events, that if they're trying to promote it to the community to come and maybe see an ABBA revival or something or other that is related to their arts organization.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
Why am I getting this?
Right. And that's like, I do want the show announcement. I want to be reminded, but do I also have to hear about picnic in the park?
Totally.
Can
they just leave us off of that whole thing when we apply?
Bring
to the
your
shows?
dog to church week. Just shut up. I don't want it. just don't want it. I don't want to hear
Stop
about
to
your
quit.
Yeah. Stop it.
To quit.
It's funny you brought up Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I actually used to bartend for Vince Gilligan. He would come in.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
He's from Richmond, Virginia, and he went to VCU where I went to school. And I had no idea who he was at the time, but I was bartending ironically, since I live in Santa Fe, I was bartending at a spot called Santa Fe and up the road. But he would hang out at my bar and write, and then he would go up to the other bar and he'd just get a bite to eat and sit at the bar and write. But I didn't know what he was doing, and I don't really recognize him later. I had no idea who he was. We served a lot of people, but knowing
do you
that
think
afterwards.
Was that pre-Twin Peaks, do you think?
Yeah. That was after,
so this was
right
before
after
he did any of that.
just 90s, or mid to probably like 94, 95.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the other bar was called Davis and Main. And Davis and Main, it was a nod to Davis and Main, the law firm. It was the other bar that he hung out and wrote those series in. So it was a nod to his favorite bar. So Davis and Main was in Santa Fe. So a nod to both of them. So just a kind of a cool little thing.
And Davis and Main was featured in Better Call Saul.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Wasn't that?
That was the law firm in Better Call Saul. Yeah.
So that's totally cool.
Yeah. Those were, I did bartending. I did, I did framing, picture framing. Then I went into graphic design, and I had a graphic design job for a while. We talked about that stuff. But my last graphic design, here's a quick story for you, Douglas.
Okay.
My last ever graphic design job I did was for this client. He was a pilot, and he was dating the mother of a friend of mine. Your parent, the parents of your friends become your friends as you get older. But he's dating the mother of a friend of mine, and she really liked him because he was a pilot. He looked like classic pilot. He had kind of rusty hair and a big Magnum PI mustache, and he's kind of macho. And
a lot of our neighbors are pilots, so I know exactly what you're describing.
Yeah, you know the type.
I know the type.
So this guy decides he wants to get a miniature blimp, and he's going to put advertising on the blimp, and he's going to fly the blimp around events, and he's going to lease it out for advertising and do this thing. So I do his logo and get it all straight, does it on the side of the blimp, takes it up for the first time, and immediately the wind catches this thing, and he's got a brand new truck and trailer and the whole thing, and it just takes off on him. And so he's going through these fields in the truck, bouncing this gigantic trailer through the mud, and he's going after this thing so he doesn't lose this like $50,000 blimp that he's got in the air.
Okay.
And he just wrecks it, completely destroys the thing, rips the trailer up from going through the mud. So that thing is wrecked. Then my friend dumped him. She was like, it's like such a loser move. She's like, you quit being a pilot for this, and now you're a out of work blimp operator. It's like, I think I'm done. So yeah,
you just never know where the universe is going to take you.
That's right. That's right.
I've wondered that too with like after my first appointment with that surgeon who had dollar signs in his eyes telling me about, I'm envisioning all of my rotator cuff tendons as being like these fragile little threads that are all about to snap on me.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do next? What would be the next thing at 54 years old that I would step into? I mean, I know I'm qualified to do a lot of stuff, but could I convince somebody else that I'm not qualified to? We've run our own businesses. We've done all that kind of stuff.
I just had that same conversation with my wife. I'm like,
okay,
we're going to go into electric work. We're going to be electricians.
Okay.
I know how to do half of it. Just go get certified. Just go run wires.
All right. I'm going to have to bring you into our studio because I have a few things I need fixing.
No,
you're like,
you
no,
can't
hire somebody.
Like, what do you mean I can't charge $10,000 for this to put in an outlet? Oh, man.
Well, it's been great talking with you. And can we do a little promo for what's up next here on the podcast? Are you interested in talking a little bit about that?
I'm very interested in talking about that. We've got a husband and wife team coming on. We've never had gallery owners on, so we're going to get to hear the other side of that. A couple of my favorite people. Laura Young is a fantastic artist. You've met her on the circuit. It's Junge is how you pronounce it's Young, but
Like
That's how you spell it.
psychologist Carl Jung, kind of that
Right.
same pronunciation. Yeah. Okay.
And then her incredibly talented and gregarious +1 is Chris Jackson, who is they're a partnership in just about everything. They run a gallery in a very high end of Chicago. They pay a lot of rent there and
Cool.
on Milwaukee. So it'll be interesting to hear about the Jackson Young Gallery and just where they take their career, and should be a different side that we have not really approached before. So
I think it's really an interesting concept that art fair artists will become gallery owners and have that be like two business models, because it does feel like it's kind of a different kind of mentality. Gallery owners seem like it's the long game, and out on the road, it's kind of like, hey, we're only here for the weekend. So I'd be interested to see what you guys come up with on that conversation.
yeah, it's going to be a great talk, and I'm excited to get down into all of those topics. And there is some time. Douglas and I are just recording this. We kind of dated it with the fact that Halloween just happened. So it's a Friday. It'll come out Monday. If you guys have any questions for Chris and Laura, please reach out through Facebook or our individual platforms, and we'd be happy to try to pass those questions along to you. What do you want to know about gallery owning and transitioning from this motorhead street artist lifestyle that we've got versus the prim and proper white walls? So Let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right, everyone. Well, make sure you get out there and vote tomorrow. It is very important. And we'll see what happens on this next episode. We'll see if we have a democracy left. But we'll have to figure all that out.
Or even an answer, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I doubt it. Even have an answer on who won. All right, buddy. We'll see you next time.
All right, take care.
This podcast is brought to you by the National Association of Independent Artists. The website is naiaartists.org.
Also sponsored by Zapplication. That's zapplication.org. And while you're at it, find us on social media and engage in these conversations.
Be sure to subscribe to this podcast to be notified when we release new episodes.
Oh, and if you like the show, we'd love it if you would give us your 5-star rating and offer up your most creative review on your podcast streaming service. See you next time.